Abroad is hosting today. And today we are discussing the diaspora and when should they speak up or should they stay quiet. And today we are delving into a topic that has garnered significant attention recently, and the role of the Indian American community in shaping the US-India relations. Now, as most of you must have kept up with the news cycle, Indian parliamentarian, the leader of Congress Party, Shashi Tharoor, recently penned an op-ed, and he titled it "Why Indian Americans Are Silent and Its Cost," where he expressed concerns over the perceived silence of the Indian diaspora on critical issues affecting the current India-US ties. And he talked about the tariffs, he talked about the guest worker visa restriction, and so on and so forth. And he argued that this silence allows negative narratives about India to flourish and urged the diaspora to be more vocal in advocating for India's interests. And in response, we've had prominent Indian Americans also write rebuttals in Indian newspaper and websites. And one that was penned by Suhag Shukla basically said that Tharoor misunderstands diaspora and we are not proxies for India in the US. So she emphasized that the Indian American community is neither obligated nor equipped to serve as a mouthpiece for the Indian government.
Feeling about their place in world affairs. I think for Indian Americans, there's also this great feeling that we are Indian American, that we have identity that brings us from India to America, and we have pride in our adopted nation, and we have pride in the nation that our ancestors came from. And so these moments are difficult, right? To see the two governments have a bit of a difficult time. When I speak for my organization, and I've done that dozens of times in July and August, the message being given was one that was constructive and respectful to both governments, saying, look, we have a long friendship. We have 25 years of partnership and convergence on the strategic, economic, and technological side. And friends should talk to one another in private and raise issues and work through them. And the US and India have shown that they can do that. So I think for the diaspora, looking at these last few months, the thing that they probably ask themselves is, how can they be effective? How can they be helpful? How can they be constructive? And sometimes in moments like this, it's better to engage in quiet diplomacy, and not shout from the rooftops. It may indeed be counterproductive to do that. What I've tried to do in my channel in representing the business community is talk about the value long-term of the world's two largest democracies collaborating on the frontier technologies of the 21st century, on forging resilient supply chains, on ensuring economic growth and ensuring happiness for both of our countries.
Touch upon 3 points. One is what the Indian diaspora in the US is all about. We have 5 million of us. And again, it's very nuanced because there are people like myself and Swadesh who are born in India, who moved here. But then there's the next generation of us who are born here. And you have to differentiate the two, right? So there are people born in India and born in the US. That split is about 60% born in India, 40% born in the US. So you got to understand that split. So not necessarily are everyone Indian American in that sense. Many of them are American, okay, as well. So that's one thing to understand. Second thing is people have said, why hasn't the diaspora spoken out for us? So let me remind India and Indians what the diaspora has done for India. First of all, the diaspora as a whole has remitted last year $135 billion to India, out of which 30 billion came from the US, okay? And these US dollars are different than other diaspora dollars. US dollars have gone to buy real estate, buy into the stock market, invest in angel capital, and so on and so forth. So this capital from the US is investing in India. Also, heads of a lot of companies and CIOs and CTOs at companies have put global capability centers in India, employing thousands and thousands of Indians in India. So the diaspora in so many ways has done things for India to improve its situation and its economy. Also, the diaspora acts as a living bridge between the US and India. For every time a US president has gone to India, we've taken people with us to talk people to people on the Indian side, much like Atul and his team take the business people together. We take other diaspora together to India and vice versa. When Prime Minister Modi comes here, we do sideline dialogues between the diaspora and Indians.
Over my lifetime, US-India relations has transformed. India always was viewed a part of Soviet bloc and a country to be managed, not partnered with. But the rise of India's economic power and the America's interest to contain China and the activism of Indian Americans in this country has changed the relationship fundamentally. It was 2000 when, after India was put on sanction by doing the nuclear test in 1998, President Clinton went to India. That's the beginning of transformation of US-India relations. And after that sanction was lifted, I worked with Senator Jesse Helms, one of the most conservative Bengal tiger in Washington. And we have arranged, lobbied, and lifted the sanction, and that broke the ice. In year 2005, it was Republican President George W. Bush announced something which has changed the world about India's position in the world, in the global power. India became a de facto nuclear club member, that is US-India civil nuclear deal. Nobody thought that it is possible that India will be allowed to have nuclear technology. So India's relationship with US really changed in the world stage in 2008.
There is something that Suhag Shukla made very clear in her op-ed, which is that we are governed as well by the laws of this land. And so, she mentioned, for instance, the Foreign Agent Registration Act. It's something extremely important for international audiences to understand that American citizens, and we are American citizens, are certainly able to engage in activity toward their government. But if they do so at the behest of a foreign entity and they do not register, they are violating the law. So that is a constraint that Suhag very wisely pointed out, and it's a very real and important thing. People do have to obey the law. So everyone makes their own individual choice about the extent to which they want to engage, how they engage. Maybe they talk to their local municipal councilman. Maybe they talk to their mayor. Maybe they talk to their senator or their congressman. They don't have to thunder in the news media necessarily in order to get things done. Remind me your first point again.
To what essentially what Swadeshji was saying, is there a sense of, how can or let me rephrase the question, right? I mean, in terms of what Swadeshji just said, and what's the conversation that's been going on, is there a sense of this community or the Indian American community choosing to stay silent versus being more vocal about certain things they could have been, in different times?
A foreign service officer for many years. So it's weird for me to analyze my own country. I used to analyze other people's countries on behalf of my country. But my sense is this is domestic driven, that the whole tariff initiative by President Trump, now the immigration initiatives, efforts to reshore manufacturing capability, technology and supply chain capabilities is very much about a domestic political narrative that helped him get elected, which is that jobs need to come back home, capability needs to come back home, that it's a more and more dangerous world, and that America was vulnerable to supply chain shocks, as we learned during the pandemic. And if you look at the narrative in right-wing social media, right-wing discourses, it's all about making sure there are jobs for Americans. And so, it may be twisted by some to be anti-Indian. It can certainly be perceived that way. I can understand that. But a lot of it has to do with domestic politics in the heartland. People saying over and over again, my kid got a computer sciences degree and couldn't get a job. Or my kid got a data science degree and couldn't get a job. Why can't my children get their jobs? And so, the visa decision and the immigration decisions are sovereign, right? India makes its own sovereign decisions. The US makes its decisions. But a lot of this is driven by domestic politics. And I think, in a country as diverse and as layered as India, a democracy as well, I think Indians would understand that there are domestic political compulsions that may change how the United States interfaces with the world on trade, on visas, on technology, on supply chains, because of, I think, the experience of the pandemic, and also this sense that middle America, places like where J.D. Vance came from, got hollowed out in the last 30, 40 years. And the capability in terms of production also got hollowed out and needs to be restored.
I think we have a role to play, but the way the role should be that how it is affecting United States, not India. What United States is losing, and point number one, that H-1B people have contributed 86 billion in the US economy for their taxes, state tax and federal tax. H-1B workers are there for all the Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and their innovation. So the country job creation will be choked, because without this talent, you cannot generate talent in 6 months or 1 year. So I think if we can talk to the congressman and senator, not just calling. One thing we did, which was very successful in those days, that you walk on the hill, Washington Chalo. So we have hundreds of people knocked at the door of the Washington congressman and senator and spend time with their chief of staff, with their staff, with congressmen, why this deal is important, why it is good for United States. And we put a front page ad in Washington Post, 110,000, why it is good for America. So I think if we can articulate it properly and try to make the point as an American that it will affect American economy, it will affect the jobs. Indians are not coming and taking the job. We are not coming from South America by crossing the border. Yes, some people are coming, but this is a technology people. They are all talent, and we need this talent. And the irony is, 4-5 years ago, we were talking about Staple Act, that all the Indian talent coming here doing masters and PhD, they should be given green card as soon as they graduate. Staple the green card. From that point, what we came today, last 4 months, it is very unfortunate, but I think diaspora can play a role, as Amar said properly. I think we have to call, but we had to go to Washington and knock on the door not in 10 or 20, it had to be in hundreds. But it need to be organized very carefully, and they have to give the message that we are not lobbying for India, we are lobbying for United States.
I'm a recent convert, and when I started dabbling in Washington D.C. politics, I discovered that weren't that many people that I thought I would, run into. But I think those of us who are in the circle now, in the Republican circle, people know us. I mean, crudely speaking, really the best thing that seems to work is to write a check towards certain things. And what that means is, maybe help towards midterm elections, maybe support some candidates, go for, dinners hosted by the Republican Party, and get to know people, start forming a relationship with the Republicans. So why is all this noise happening? And I must say, to his credit, he told me that India must switch the narrative to saying it's a peace builder, that it has a foot in the door with both Ukraine and with Russia, and that instead of focusing on Russia buying oil from Russia, India buying oil from Russia, that the Indian narrative should be that we are peace builders between Ukraine and Russia. And this is from Senator Graham. This was very good advice, I thought. Now, I checked with the embassy staff to see if we have a narrative building, PR team and so on. I don't know if we have one.
Rohit, the Jewish, diaspora is a benchmark. For example, there are 535 people in Congress and the Senate. Literally all 535, when they get elected for the first time, get an invitation and a business class ticket and 1 week paid trip to Israel. And literally, I would say out of the 535 people in Congress, probably 500 have been to Israel, know what the country is about, been informed and educated. Same thing with India. Maybe we're lucky if 100 people in the Senate and House have actually visited India. So, looking at the Indian side, I would say that the Indian government and Indian institutions need to target these 535 and over the next couple of years have a program that gets all of them to come and visit India. Because once you visit India, you see the richness and the diversity and the vibrancy of India.
That we should have a policy discussion by the bipartisan, both Republican and Democrat elected member, Congress and Senator, and bring these issues about H-1B, why it is not good for US, why this tariff 50%, how it will affect the trade in United States. To US-India relations and Indian-American is involved. That has been proven. It has been done before. So we need regular every 3 months. As Atul rightly said, we don't have the institution. So I think we together should have that kind of discussion in front of the press and let the senator, congressman deliver something. Don't just take our money. Let us use our mind and try to get them on the table. I strongly believe that work, we have done it. It is successful because they need Indian American much more than what we think. That's what
Yeah.
I think that we can contribute.
Most important thing that Pakistan is doing separately compared to what we are doing, and which is reaping huge benefits, is that it's piggybacking on influence networks of Qatar. And that actually is something, and the reason that's happening, there's a long history there, Nayan, but the history is that the General Corella, who is based in Qatar, was based in Qatar till I think till last week. He was running Central Command for America in Qatar, managing 10,000 troops in Qatar, in Doha. They were, providing security guarantees to the region and stuff like that. And so, when we were in Afghanistan for those 20 years, General Corella worked pretty closely with the Pakistan Army. So that relationship is old and it's been there for a long time. So when the Afghan war got over, unfortunately, that relationship continued. And through General Corella and various things that are going on in Doha right now, the Pakistanis are happily able to piggyback on Qatari influence networks, which we can never match. I mean, Qataris are spending billions of dollars on lobbying, media purchase, influence, and so on. And I don't think we Indian government I don't think they want to spend that kind of money.
Okay.
The necessary ingredient is relevance. And this goes back to the fact that India is a democracy, we're a democracy. If you're going to talk to an elected representative or someone in the executive branch about anything, you have to figure out what's relevant to the other person. And I say this from my former government experience. Government listens when there's something relevant being said and when it's relevant to what they're trying to achieve. I think when you engage with governments, you should be respectful, you should be constructive, and you should offer something relevant. And that would be the ingredient for having meaningful policy dialogue that can actually shape the thinking in government.
Responding to government, I think any such move that you guys made, bringing people to Washington to talk to government, has to have an America first kind of positioning, and then the issues are in that context, as opposed to saying in India, so and so is being done. It's like, what is the relevance to America? So anything to do
100%.
lobbying or otherwise in Washington has to be done with America first.
Yeah, is if we can get our people together, right-minded people, our voice is not muted. So we had to be more proactive because the Congress and the Senate, they are all wanted to have a good relations between US and India. And you don't have to sell India anymore. India is sold. We are the much later stage of the relationship as because something happened last 3 months that is not going to destroy the fundamentals of US-India relationship.
One thing, I hear of all these pacts now which I was not aware of. Maybe all those packs need to get together as well and see if there's a common front. That might be an interesting one, and maybe Asha and others can lead that effort to get the Hindu pack, the conservative pack, all of them together to see, based on America first, what are the issues that can benefit India as well. Something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
listen, we can all do anything. Everybody doesn't have to write a check. Sometimes people can't afford writing a check. I think what's really important is that we do what we can. Whether if you are on a campus, support a campus group that can give voice to our Indian American ideas, values, and aspirations. One of the points that MR made just now was that, the fact that we love this country and we belong here, our children and grandchildren are growing up in the US. It's very important to communicate that we are Americans also, and that our interest is in strengthening the U.S. As we strengthen this U.S.-India corridor, it is America first, and it's important to communicate that very clearly in any circle that you are in, whether you are at a county level, state level, federal level. Do that, and the more conversations you have, the better. I personally believe.
MR,
Yeah,
your
I
closing
agree.
remarks.
I think we need to do all of the above and keep it going with everything from Diwali parties to political action committees getting together to people calling on Capitol Hill and walking the halls of Capitol Hill and all this stuff. We need to keep doing it. My thing is, we ask India and Indians to stay strong. If you look at the relationship, like Swadesh said, over 35 years, it's going up this way. Okay. So this, in the history of time, will be viewed as an aberration, as a blip. And I think on the U.S.-India relationship, with the diaspora acting as a living bridge, will only get stronger. So keep the faith.
US-India relations cannot be in autopilot. We, as a diaspora, American of Indian origin, we have big role to play, and we played, and will play more, because the relationship is not just between Foggy Bottom and South Block anymore. Because when the relationship will go south, we are there to hold it. We were not there before. And let us not be just ATM machine to give money to politicians. We should ask, we should demand now that what we are getting for this money, not just keep the photo and keep on the living room and have a personal relationship. It is important. But I think we had to go beyond the personal relationship. And every politics is local. So you had to be visible in the local community. You had to be visible to Attorney General, to Governor, to Congressman, to Senator, so that you can influence. And our voice is very important voice in this country. We are affluent. We contribute so much to this country, and they are all aware. Now we had to make that sure. We have to make more noise in Washington, and the noise can be made in different way, including Diwali and Holi. And we did Howdy Modi, and everybody see Trump is the best friend. Trump was in Ahmedabad. Looks like the relationship will go. Look what happened. This one time Diwali or Holi is not going to cut it. So that noise making had to continue, as Amar said, and I'm very hopeful. I'm not disappointed. Yeah, there are some issues, and there will be always some issues, because it is two democratic country. India is a different level now. India is not the same India what you can bully any country anymore. So I think you will see that things will be different. We'll be talking different next year or in the end of the year.
4 R's. First of all, Rohit and Lalit, thank you very much. This has been great, and I really enjoyed seeing all of my fellow discussants. The 4 R's are rhetoric, reality, relevance, and reciprocity. I think we have seen the lofty rhetoric that guided us for 25 years kind of stripped away by the reality of changing politics in America. I think Indians need to understand that our politics not only are changing, but changing really fast. And that in 3 years, we're going to be a very different America from what we are right now. It's going to be sweeping. The ambition of this administration to change the economic configuration and how we interface with the world is so ambitious that countries have to decide if they want to adjust to that. And this leads to the question of relevance and reciprocity. If we can be relevant to one another, that is the glue of taking a relationship forward. I want to see all kinds of things done. I want us to have greater strategic congruity in the Indo-Pacific. I want us to break down the barriers to nuclear energy cooperation, which is critical to artificial intelligence innovation. I want to see us ensure our defense capability is greater than any of our adversaries and enemies, frankly. I am impatient to see the United States and India innovate on life sciences, agriculture, manufacturing, supply chains. I don't think the governments can afford not to be relevant to one another, given the great power risks that are out there in the 21st century. And this then requires reciprocity. I help you, you help me, we go forward together. If the governments can figure all that out, there's a possibility here. But for Indian Americans, our job is to remind of the overall logic of what's good for both of our countries, because we are loyal citizens of this country, the United States of America.